Things women find most attractive in a man. Most men overlook these. If I asked 100 men what women find most attractive, most of them would probably give the same answers. Money, looks, height, a nice car, expensive clothes. And while those things can influence first impressions, they rarely explain why some men naturally attract women wherever they go. Think about it. You've probably seen an average-looking man dating a beautiful woman. You've probably met someone who wasn't the richest or the tallest, yet women genuinely enjoyed being around him. At the same time, you've also seen men who seem to have everything, money, looks, status, but still struggle to build meaningful relationships. So what's the difference? The answer is simple. Most attraction isn't built on what people own. It's built on who they are. The problem is that many men spend years trying to improve the wrong things. They chase shortcuts. They memorize pickup lines. They search for the perfect text message. They copy someone else's personality. But they overlook the qualities that quietly make a man unforgettable. The truth is that attraction usually grows through repeated experiences. It's how you make someone feel over time. It's your mindset, your habits, your confidence, your emotional stability. These things cannot be fake forever. Sooner or later, your real character always shows. And that's exactly what women notice. Today, we're going to talk about the qualities women consistently find attractive in a man. The ones that most men completely overlook. Not because they're flashy, but because they're real. And by the end of this video, you'll realize that becoming more attractive isn't about pretending to be someone else. It's about becoming the best version of who you already are. Number 1, a man who stays calm when life gets difficult. One of the first things people notice about you isn't how you behave when life is easy. It's how you behave when life becomes difficult. Imagine two different men. Both have their plans canceled at the last minute. The first man immediately gets angry. He complains. He blames everyone. His mood changes instantly. The second man is disappointed, but he stays composed. He adjusts his plans. He laughs it off. He doesn't let one setback ruin his entire day. Which man feels more attractive? Most people naturally feel drawn toward emotional stability. Why? Because calmness creates a sense of safety. When a man remains emotionally balanced, the people around him feel more relaxed. They know they don't have to constantly worry about his reactions. This doesn't mean pretending nothing ever bothers you. Everyone experiences frustration. Everyone has difficult days. The difference is learning how to respond instead of simply reacting. Emotional control isn't about suppressing emotions. It's about managing them. And that ability becomes more valuable as relationships grow deeper. Because eventually, every relationship faces challenges. Arguments happen. Stress happens. Unexpected situations happen. And in those moments, emotional maturity becomes far more attractive than charm ever could. Number 2, a man who has a purpose outside of dating. One of the biggest mistakes many men make is allowing their entire world to revolve around women. Every decision becomes about getting attention. Every achievement becomes about impressing someone. Every conversation becomes another opportunity to seek validation. But here's something interesting. The men who naturally attract attention are usually busy building something bigger than dating. Maybe they're growing a business, learning a skill, working toward a career goal, improving their health, helping their family, developing themselves. Their life already has direction. And because of that, relationships become part of their life, not the center of it. Purpose creates something that cannot be bought. Presence. People can sense when someone is moving through life with intention. It changes how they speak, how they walk, how they make decisions. Purpose also creates confidence. Not the loud confidence that constantly needs attention, but the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you're becoming someone you're proud of. Ironically, the less a man's life depends on attracting women, the more attractive he often becomes, because his identity no longer depends on someone else's approval. Number 3, a man who listens to understand, not just to respond. This quality is becoming increasingly rare. Many people hear words. Very few people truly listen. Think about how most conversations happen today. Someone starts talking. Before they even finish, the other person is already planning their response. They're waiting for their turn to speak. They're not really listening. They're simply waiting. Now, imagine talking to someone who gives you their full attention. Someone who remembers what you said weeks later. Someone who asks thoughtful questions. Someone who makes you feel heard. How would that make you feel? Probably respected. Probably valued. And that's exactly why listening is attractive. It tells people that you genuinely care about understanding them, not just impressing them. Listening also communicates confidence, because confident people don't constantly need to dominate conversations. They don't need to prove they're the smartest person in the room. They're comfortable letting others speak. And ironically, those are often the people everyone remembers the most. Number 4, a man who keeps his word. This quality sounds simple, but surprisingly rare. Anyone can make promises. Anyone can say they'll call. Anyone can say they'll show up. Anyone can say they'll change. The difficult part is actually following through. Reliability creates trust, and trust creates attraction. Imagine someone who always does what they say they're going to do. If they promise to call, they call. If they make plans, they keep them. If they commit to something, they follow through. That kind of consistency builds respect over time. Now compare that to someone whose words constantly change. One day they're excited. The next day they disappear. They make promises they never keep. Eventually, their words stop carrying weight. The same principle applies to the promises you make to yourself. If you constantly break your own commitments, your confidence slowly disappears. But every time you keep a promise to yourself, you build self-respect. And self-respect is something other people can feel. Long before you ever talk about confidence, your actions have already introduced it. So far, none of these qualities have anything to do with expensive watches, luxury cars, perfect looks, or memorizing clever pickup lines. That's because attraction usually grows through character. And we're only getting started. The next qualities are even more powerful because they influence how people feel every time they're around you. Number 5, a man who is confident without needing to prove it. One of the biggest misconceptions about confidence is that it has to be loud. Many men believe confidence means speaking the loudest, always having the last word, trying to dominate every conversation, showing off achievements, constantly reminding people how successful they are. But genuine confidence rarely behaves that way. Real confidence is usually quiet. It doesn't need applause. It doesn't need approval. And it certainly doesn't need to convince everyone in the room that it exists. Think about the people you've met who seem genuinely comfortable with themselves. They weren't trying to impress anyone. They didn't constantly compare themselves to others. They didn't become defensive every time someone disagreed with them. They simply knew who they were. That kind of confidence is attractive because it creates emotional safety. When a man is secure in himself, he doesn't become threatened by another person's success. He doesn't become jealous every time another man walks into the room. He doesn't panic when someone disagrees with him. His confidence comes from within, not from winning every argument, not from getting attention, not from being validated by strangers. Many men unknowingly push women away because they're constantly trying to prove something. They exaggerate their income. They brag about their achievements. They try too hard to appear important. Ironically, the harder someone works to look confident, the more insecurity they often reveal. Because confidence isn't something you announce. It's something people notice. And the most attractive men rarely spend their time trying to convince everyone they're attractive. They're too busy living their lives. Number 6, a man who can make people feel comfortable. This quality is incredibly underrated. Many people believe attraction is about excitement, but long-term attraction often begins with comfort. Think about the people you genuinely enjoy spending time with. Why do you enjoy being around them? Usually because you can relax. You don't feel judged. You don't feel like you're being evaluated. You don't feel pressure to become someone else. You simply feel accepted. Now imagine becoming that person for others. A man who doesn't constantly interrupt. A man who doesn't always make conversations about himself. A man who listens, laughs, includes others, makes people feel welcome. That energy is magnetic because people naturally return to places where they feel emotionally safe. This doesn't mean becoming boring. It doesn't mean becoming passive. It means creating an atmosphere where people enjoy being themselves. Many men try so hard to appear mysterious or impressive that they accidentally become exhausting to be around. The most memorable people are often the ones who make everyone else feel comfortable. And that is a quality that never goes out of style. Number 7, a man who has standards. One of the biggest mistakes many men make is believing that saying yes to everything makes them more attractive. They never disagree. They never express boundaries. They never say no. They accept poor treatment because they're afraid of losing someone. At first, this may seem like kindness, but over time, it often becomes people-pleasing. Healthy relationships require respect, and respect starts with respecting yourself. A man with standards doesn't treat people badly. He simply understands his own value. He knows what behavior he will accept, and he knows what behavior he won't. For example, if someone repeatedly cancels plans without respect for his time, he notices. If someone constantly disrespects him, he doesn't ignore it just because he's afraid of being alone. If someone only reaches out when they need something, he pays attention to the pattern. Many men believe boundaries push people away. Healthy boundaries actually attract healthier people because they communicate something powerful. I respect myself enough to protect my peace. And that message is attractive, not because it's aggressive, but because it shows emotional maturity. Number 8, a man who continues growing. This may be one of the most overlooked qualities of all. Growth. There is something naturally attractive about someone who refuses to stay the same. Not because they think they're not good enough, but because they believe life is an opportunity to keep improving. They read books. They learn new skills. They exercise. They challenge themselves. They become better communicators. They improve their finances. They work on their mindset. Notice something important. None of this is done to impress women. It's done because growth becomes part of who they are. That mindset changes everything. Because every year they become slightly wiser, slightly stronger, slightly more disciplined, slightly more emotionally mature. And those small improvements eventually create a completely different person. Compare that to someone who complains every year but never changes, who talks about goals but never starts, who blames everyone else for their situation, who refuses to grow. Which person naturally becomes more attractive over time? The answer is obvious. Growth creates confidence. Growth creates purpose. Growth creates stories. Growth creates resilience. And perhaps most importantly, growth creates hope. People enjoy being around those who are moving forward because positive momentum is contagious. A lesson many men learn too late. Here's something many men don't realize until much later in life. Attraction isn't built in one conversation. It isn't built by one perfect text message. It isn't built by one expensive date. It is built through repeated experiences. Every interaction answers small questions. Can I trust this person? Do I enjoy being around him? Does he make my life more peaceful or more stressful? Does he have direction? Does he respect himself? Does he treat other people well? Can he handle challenges without falling apart? These questions are rarely asked out loud, but they're constantly being answered through your behavior. That's why habits matter so much, because habits eventually become your character, and your character becomes your reputation. Long before someone falls in love with your words, they usually fall in love with how you consistently make them feel. We've covered 8 qualities that quietly separate truly attractive men from those who spend their lives chasing approval. But the next 4 qualities tie everything together. These are often the difference between someone who gets temporary attention and someone people genuinely admire and remember long after they've left the room. Number 9, a man who is kind without being weak. This is one of the most misunderstood qualities in modern dating. Some people confuse kindness with weakness. Others confuse confidence with arrogance. But neither is true. A truly attractive man doesn't have to be rude to prove he's strong. He doesn't insult people to appear confident. He doesn't put others down to make himself feel important. Instead, he treats people with respect because that's who he is. He is polite to the waiter, respectful to strangers, patient with people who can't offer him anything in return. Why? Because character isn't measured by how you treat people who can help you. It's measured by how you treat people who can't. Women notice this more than many men realize. Anyone can pretend to be kind during a date, but your everyday behavior tells the real story. How you speak to your family, how you react when someone makes a mistake, how you handle frustration. Those moments reveal the man behind the image. And that's the version people eventually fall in love with. Being kind doesn't make you weak. Allowing people to constantly disrespect you does. There's a huge difference. The most attractive men know how to be both compassionate and firm. They can say no without feeling guilty. They can be generous without allowing themselves to be used. They care about people without losing themselves. That balance is incredibly attractive. Number 10, a man who makes decisions. One quality that quietly builds attraction is decisiveness. Many men are so afraid of making the wrong choice that they avoid making any choice at all. They constantly ask, "What do you want to do?" "I don't mind. Whatever you want." Now, being considerate is a good thing, but constantly refusing to make decisions often communicates uncertainty. Decisive people make life easier. They choose a restaurant. They suggest a plan. They solve problems. They take responsibility when things don't go perfectly. Notice something important. Being decisive doesn't mean being controlling. It means being willing to lead when leadership is needed. People naturally feel comfortable around someone who can remain calm and make decisions under pressure, because life is full of uncertainty, and confidence often shows itself through action, not hesitation. Number 11, a man who has a life he doesn't need to escape from. This may be the most attractive quality of all. Think about it. Many people spend their lives waiting for one person to make them happy. They believe, when I find the right relationship, everything will finally feel complete. But healthy attraction doesn't usually begin that way. The strongest relationships are often built between 2 people who already enjoy their lives. A man who wakes up excited about his goals, his work, his hobbies, his friendships, his family, his health, his future, doesn't expect one woman to become the source of all his happiness. Instead, he invites her into a life that already has purpose, and that completely changes the dynamic, because she doesn't feel responsible for carrying his emotional world. She becomes a partner, not a solution. Many men accidentally place enormous pressure on relationships because they're hoping another person will fix problems they haven't addressed themselves. But no relationship can permanently replace purpose. No relationship can permanently replace self-respect. No relationship can permanently replace inner peace. Those things have to be built first. And when they are, love becomes something you share, not something you desperately depend on. Number 12, a man who never stops becoming better. If there is one quality that ties everything together, it's this one: growth. The most attractive men understand something that many people never learn. There is no finish line, no moment where you suddenly become perfect, no day where you stop learning. Every year is another opportunity to become wiser, stronger, healthier, more disciplined, more patient, more emotionally mature. Life constantly teaches lessons. The question is, are you paying attention? Some people become bitter after disappointment. Others become better. Some people allow failure to define them. Others allow failure to educate them. That mindset changes everything, because growth creates resilience. And resilient people naturally become more attractive over time, not because they never struggle, because they continue moving forward despite struggling. Women often admire men who keep improving because it shows hope. It shows ambition. It shows discipline. It shows that this man refuses to settle for becoming the same person year after year. And that quiet determination is incredibly attractive. Why most men get this wrong? Here's where so many men make a mistake. They spend years searching for one magical trick, one perfect text message, one pickup line, one dating technique, one psychological secret. But attraction doesn't usually work like that. It's not built in one impressive moment. It's built through hundreds of ordinary moments. The way you greet people, the promises you keep, the way you handle disappointment, the respect you show, the confidence you develop, the habits you build every single day. People are always observing, not to judge you, but to understand who you really are. Because anyone can act differently for one evening. Very few people can fake their character for months. Eventually, the real person always appears. That's why becoming attractive isn't about creating a new personality. It's about becoming a stronger version of your real one. If there is one thing I hope you remember from this video, it's this: the qualities that create lasting attraction are rarely the loudest ones. They're not always the things people post on social media. They're not always expensive. They're not always obvious. Real attraction is often built through quiet consistency, through keeping your word, through treating people with respect, through staying calm under pressure, through having purpose, through protecting your peace, through continuing to grow. And here's something worth thinking about. Imagine meeting yourself 5 years from now. Would that future version of you be proud of the habits you're building today? Would he thank you for the choices you're making? Or would he wish you had started sooner? Because becoming attractive isn't really about finding the right woman. It's about becoming the kind of man you're proud to see in the mirror. Ironically, when you stop chasing validation, when you stop pretending to be someone you're not, when you focus on building character instead of an image, people notice. Not because you're trying to impress them, but because genuine confidence has a quiet way of speaking for itself. At the end of the day, the men who leave the biggest impression are rarely the loudest, the richest, or the most flashy. They're the ones who consistently make the people around them feel respected, safe, inspired, and understood. And those qualities never go out of style. So instead of asking yourself, how can I get more attention? Start asking a better question. What kind of man am I becoming every single day? Because the answer to that question will shape not only your relationships, but your entire life. And that's something far more valuable than temporary attraction. Click the subscribe button, like, share, and follow for more.